Alright, so sprint qualifying for the 2024 Qatar Grand Prix has just been concluded. Literally as I am recording this, the session has just finished. This will set the grid for Saturday morning's sprint race, and obviously we have the Grand Prix race on Sunday, but this session gives us a good idea of what to expect throughout the rest of the weekend. So let's dive into it, guys. Let's have a look at the main highlights. The 5 things that we learned from Qatar Sprint Grand Prix qualifying. I did the order of the words wrong there, but let's roll with it. Let's keep going with it. So the first thing that we learned is that Sergio Perez is still not performing. You know, I don't take any pleasure in bringing you this again. The guy was out in Q1 again. Yes, Max Verstappen did not have the best session today. I think he lined up in P6 for tomorrow's race. So again, the car looks like 3rd or 4th fastest on the grid realistically, but you'd still expect Perez to make it into Q3 as a minimum, and here he is not even making it out of Q1, and by Q1 I mean SQ1, technically the first qualifying. You know what I mean by that. Yeah, a terrible qualifying session for him again, and he's got a real tough job on to actually get through the points. I mean, he managed it in Las Vegas, but that was throughout a whole Grand Prix distance, and in truth a track that's easier to pass on as well. I don't think he's going to get any points, because not only does he need to make the well, he has to improve on a top 10 that he managed in Las Vegas, but he has to actually get a P8 in the sprint to get any points, and I don't think he's going to do it. You know, Red Bulls, like Marco said, like Dr. Helmut Marco said, you know, they've got no hope of even catching Ferrari for 2nd place in the constructors, and you can see why going off of today's performance again. But yeah, so the second thing we learned, I mean, I said this, and we've kind of hinted at it a few times, I think, really, and it's something I've at least been thinking about anyway, is Sauber. Now, I'm highlighting Sauber, and I said this in my preview as well, that Valtteri Bottas in particular could have a good weekend this weekend. Sauber scored no points in 2024. They're the only team that haven't scored any points, but this was the last time when they scored points in Formula 1, I think, in general. At least it was their last double score. Guan Yu Zhou and Valtteri Bottas both getting points in the 2023 Qatar Grand Prix. This is a track that really seems to suit their car for some reason, and it seemed like it again today. So Bottas getting the best performance out of that Sauber in a long time in any kind of session, managing to get a very respectable P13 in SQ2. Zhou was out in SQ1, but there is some pace in that car, and while I think it'd be too big of an ask really for them to be able to get points in the sprint race tomorrow, I think they've definitely got a chance of being able to get some points in the Grand Prix if they get a bit of luck with some retirements, and also more importantly have a good performance in qualifying on Saturday afternoon tomorrow. But we'll see what happens there. In the battle for 6th place in the Constructors' Championship between Alpine, RB and Haas, this was a very close fought battle between them, because we had one representative from each of those teams, Pierre Gasly, Liam Lawson and Nico Hülkenberg, all make it through to SQ3. Gasly came out on top out of these 3 guys. He was in P8, Lawson P9 and Hülkenberg in P10. In that battle where it is so close between these 3 teams, every point counts, and currently Gasly will score 1 for Alpine if he converts his starting position into his finishing position for tomorrow's sprint race, but we'll see what happens there. Next up, I want to talk about Mercedes, because they had a pretty good day today, to be fair. At least George Russell did anyway. People were asking whether the pace that they had during the Las Vegas Grand Prix was very much a flash in the pan, and I think to an extent potentially it would be, but there is pace in that car, and they showed it again today. They had a good performance, to be fair, last year as well in qualifying. Remember, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell were really far up on the grid before obviously Hamilton crashed into George Russell and ruined his race. Not, well, ruined his race, because his race was over, but Russell continued for P4 in the end, I think it was. So it's a good track for them in fairness, and they showed it today. George Russell, the guy who split the McLarens at the front of the grid, more on them for the final thing that we learned, but yeah, very good performance by him to get P2, and Hamilton in P7, pretty respectable in truth for Sir Lewis. Not amazing, but at the same time, in and around that group, you know, there's big potential for the car to be able to make up positions tomorrow. I think they've got a good chance of maybe a top 5 even, but we'll see what happens with that. And the last thing we learned, McLaren are the team on top around this track. It seemed as though it might have been Ferrari were very quick in SQ1, but when the soft tyres came onto the car, McLaren looked like the team to beat. Lando Norris getting pole position, I think for the 2nd time in a row. Was that a 2nd pole in a row around this track for him? And also Oscar Oscar Piastri in P3. Like I said, George Russell, the only guy able to split them in a McLaren sandwich. But the Papaya team look on top. They are certainly looking faster than Ferrari and should be able to gain points on them during the sprint race tomorrow. The big points are on Sunday, of course, but this is a very positive sign for them in my opinion. But yeah, those are the 5 things that we learned from Qatar Grand Prix sprint qualifying. Let us know what you thought about the session in the comments below. Who is winning the sprint tomorrow? You're going to go with Norris? You're going to go with someone else? Let us know your thoughts. And of course, keep it subscribed to the F1Chronicle.com to see much more content on the world of Formula 1 just like this. See you soon, guys. Have a good one.